Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Tuning In, Learn to Be Your Own Psychic, where we move one episode at a time away from the need for external validation and towards strong, confident trust in our own intuition. You guys don't need psychics, you are psychic. This episode is going to be all about holding space, what it is, and why it's important. And we're just going to jump right in, y'all. Now, I'm sure you've heard someone say at some point in your life something about the idea or the act of holding space. This is an act of mindfulness, and it can be a difficult thing for some, for many even. So, what is holding space? Holding space is being present with someone, allowing them to be exactly who they are, experiencing exactly what they are experiencing without any type of interference. No fixing, no judging, no correcting, none of that mess. We are gifting them with a safe space, surrounding them with an environment that is conducive to their needs, which can be anything dealing with the physical, emotional, and or spiritual health and or growth. All the while, we ourselves ground in who we are because we are providing a space for them to be seen, to be heard, and to feel accepted in light of whatever struggle they may be dealing with. But it is not ours to carry, so we need to remain ourselves. We offer compassion, empathy. We offer these things without demanding any shift of perspective on their part or suggesting a solution. We are just embracing them exactly as they are and permitting them to feel how they feel. I might even go a step further and say we are encouraging them to permit themselves to feel how they feel and to be who they are and to accept that. Why is holding space important? Holding space is an absolute gift. Whether we are giving this to others or ourselves, it is a powerful act. It is permission to exist outside of expectation, to be exactly who we are as we are with no negative impacts. We remove ourselves from the expectation to carry, to fix, to save, and we allow ourselves instead to walk alongside, to support, to nurture, and embrace what is with full surrender, with no tie to the outcome. We remove, for those whom we are holding space for, any expectations regarding how they are feeling, what they should do, what they should think or believe, what outcome they should be working towards, or the time it should take them to work towards it. We allow them to feel exactly how they feel, think how they think, be who they are, and to move in whatever direction they choose towards healing within whatever time it takes them. Think about how empowering that is for you and for them. It allows them the opportunity to guide themselves, to hear their own intuition, and to dare to follow it, knowing that regardless of everything else, they are loved, supported, and safe. Imagine that. I'm going to use parenting as an example. When I parent, I walk a line because, yes, it is up to me to shape good humans, but I also look at parenting as I am the homeroom teacher of their life. They are not mine. They belong to themselves. They are not extensions of me. They are their own people. I serve a purpose, sure. Absolutely, I do. I guide, I teach, I discipline, but I do not limit them with my expectations and requirements. I honor who they are individually. They have have to do's and they have want to do's, and those are clearly defined, and they are encouraged to be themselves in all things. It is no easy feat, but I absolutely practice holding space with them consistently This is especially difficult with your babies, when they struggle, you want to fix, you want to help, you want to change how they are feeling, you want to take the pain away. But who are you benefiting when you fix for them or give them answers or do the task for them? It ain't them. My youngest has some issues with anxiety. Lucky for us, we are able to recognize the source, and having that information is super powerful, but there is still the need to work with the impact, the anxiety that has manifested within her. What is difficult is approaching her to support and nurture her journey while standing back enough to allow her to step into this place of power so that she can develop her own coping mechanisms and find confidence in her ability to manage not just her anxiety, but normal daily tasks that used to be a struggle because of her anxiety. To allow her to be and to feel and to teach her to allow herself to be and to feel is challenging. When she is lashing out, she needs you. So you have to balance being mindful of how you set boundaries while also being present and supportive. And when she asks for help, you have to be willing to suggest guidance, but still allow her to remain in her power. It's been an amazing thing to watch, and yeah, I'm so proud of her. I do not say this lightly. It was not easy. It was not. I'm an empath. She is emotionally loud, and it was a challenge. But she and I are both better people for it. She has learned to manage her anxiety with mastery, and I have grown adept at holding space, which is so helpful in my practice. Another example is when my children are in a disagreement. It is very difficult for me to refrain from interjecting. My desire is to have them both reflect on their role in the situation as well as to take a beat to consider the perspective of the other. And it's a strong desire. It really tugs at me. But what do they learn if I step in? I've modeled the process for them, and now I must allow them to approach the situation from their own place of empowerment and reach a solution together. I must hold space for them to solve this themselves, supporting them both along the way. I trust them to find a solution that they are both happy, at least happy-ish with, regardless of what I want. It's not my situation, it's theirs. Don't get me wrong. I will step in if I feel like it is absolutely necessary because they are still growing and learning, but for the most part, they have learned how to work things out amongst themselves, standing on their own boundaries and not afraid to anchor in their own autonomy. This requires me to hold space for them, but it empowers them. Let's talk about the art of holding space. Okay, let's start with holding space for yourself. This is a necessary practice because it always, always, always starts within. When we are on our healing and spiritual growth journey, much of the healing has to do with whole self integration, self love, and self worth. Holding space for yourself is a fundamental practice and powerful facilitator of this specific personal growth aspect. So, how do we do it? Personally, I am intentional about my focus. Remember, it starts within. So when I'm struggling with an emotional state, I need to discern for myself if I am focused on the future, the past, or the now moment. If I am not focused on now, it is time to redirect my focus because that's where our focus needs to be. Future focused thoughts tend to fuel anxiety and worry and fear, and past focused thoughts, which you should not be on unless you are specifically healing something, tend to foster feelings of regret and shame and guilt. We don't want any of that. We want to be focused on the now. So when I find that I'm not, it is time to redirect. my focus. It is time to permit myself to release the past. It is time to accept that I don't know the future. Redirect, focus on the now. If I am triggered, I take a step back and go through this process where I identify, accept, feel to heal, release, and reflect. Obviously, you have to identify the trigger and what you are feeling. You'll need to approach this as an observer and without judgment to see it clearly. Then you'll need a bit of radical acceptance. This is where I am. This is how I feel, and it's okay. It's okay that I'm here. It's okay that I feel this way. Permit yourself to feel it all the way through. If there is an emotional release, allow it. This is a physical energy transfer. You don't want to stuff it down and stop it. You don't want it stuck in your body. Allow yourself to purge it. It doesn't matter how ugly it gets. It doesn't matter how big the cry is. Allow yourself to purge it. This is literally energetic catharsis. Allow it to happen. Then we do the reflection. What did we learn and how can we grow from this? Triggers are, in essence, prompts for shadow work. They're not meant to move us into a spiral of despair, but to show us where we need healing. The only way to remove the trigger is to hold space for this healing. And you hold space for this healing by the process. Identify, accept, feel to heal, release, reflect. Again, holding space is an act of mindfulness, so it is important to practice that formula, if you will. It's an effort to detach emotionally, attempting to view what is, specifically what is in the now moment objectively and without judgment, as an observer. Be intentional about allowing only compassion and acceptance to accompany your emotional state. The compassion and acceptance create the environment whereby you hold space for your healing. Healing is difficult, guys. It is not easy. It is uncomfortable. It is difficult. And the last thing we need to do while we are feeling to heal is to add anything other than compassion and acceptance to the mix. You'll find that when you are adept at holding space for yourself, you will see your self-worth and self-love improve. You will also experience an organic growth in your self-awareness, as well as a more natural projection of compassion towards others. Speaking of others, how do we hold space for them? I find that most people find this easier than holding space for themselves, and that boils down to self-love, self-worth, but let's not digress. The formula for holding space for others includes things like listen without attempting to fix. It's not your job to absorb, remove, or fix for them. That's their job. It's their job to do those things. You are not there to do those things. You are there to support. You are there to nurture. You are there to make them feel safe so that they can do those things. Okay? Work without judgment. Judgment is something we should just remove from our lives altogether. But it is especially detrimental to the act of holding space because the safety of the space you are holding is inversely proportional to the amount of judgment present. This is not what our loved ones need from us. They don't need judgment. The more judgment you have, the less safe the space. Support without any expectation of their progress or outcome. We are not meant to fix or solve. Remember, this is their journey. This is their lesson. It is their responsibility. It is not our place to assign a deadline or to fix an expectation on this process for them. That's between them and source. The only true love is unconditional love. You must not place conditions on the support you offer so that you can create a space where they can experience love, acceptance, and growth without pressure or judgment. Be an active presence, but refrain from offering a distraction. Distraction doesn't benefit anyone. When we are working through something, there is a healing process, which includes feel to heal. Attempting to distract your loved one to ease their emotional state is not helpful. They got to feel it. It delays the inevitable and can make it worse when the inevitable final piece falls. It is imperative to allow your loved one to move through their process in their time and to actively support them while they move through it without distraction. Above all else, you are creating a safe space for the completely authentic version of someone to show up and move in their own time into radical acceptance of their reality without any interference of your judgment or your perspective of your own. It is a powerful responsibility to take this on and requires just as much patience and reservation as it does compassion and support. It is quite the delicate dance of give and withhold, support and permit, reassure and allow. It's also important to be aware of emotional boundaries. Part of holding space is not taking on their emotional state, of remaining grounded in yours. You'll want to be mindful of not losing yourself in their process or even in your own process of holding space for them. Another delicate balance between practicing empathy and maintaining healthy boundaries for yourself to be aware of. Honor always where their process ends and yours begins. Honor where their feelings end and yours begin. Very important. Let's talk about proactively holding space. Holding space for yourself should not be reserved as a response tactic. It should be something that you do routinely, proactively. Let's quickly focus on some things that can be beneficial for you with this practice. Sometimes I feel like I'm on repeat because these things are beneficial for you, for your healing and spiritual growth journey in general. But I suppose can't hurt to remind you how helpful they are. Journaling is huge. Why is journaling so effective? For the most part, it's the intentional energy transfer. Let's talk about that. When all of these thoughts and these feelings are swimming around inside you, your journal is just sitting there. It's just sitting there waiting to hold space for you to process through it. As you write, you are transferring the energy of your thoughts and feelings to paper, removing them, if you will, from the space that they are taking up in your being and placing them on this paper. And just like that, you've released the energy. As a plus, you also have a record you can reference to view any evidence of growth and progress on your part, which is always a great thing to go back and look at, especially to provide reasons for you to celebrate, because you should be celebrating your growth and your small victories along the way. Meditation is another act of mindfulness that will help you calm and focus. This can help as a daily practice, which everybody should be meditating daily, or it can be effective as a tool when you are in an emotionally charged or chaotic state. When meditating for healing, we are often reflective or working with our inner child, but permit yourself to move through this, whichever way is the most beneficial. Recognize and set boundaries. Now, boundaries are not ultimatums. You don't tell people what your boundaries are and promise to cut them out of your lives if they don't honor them. That's not really how that works. And it's kind of tricky because we tend to see setting boundaries in this way, but it's more of a, that's not going to work for me. And because of that, my response to that behavior is, and then you follow that up by the response that you've determined that you want to have. It's nuanced, but I do see people view this as an opportunity to manipulate a preference or gain control. If you do this, then I'm leaving you. And that's not quite the same thing. When you are setting boundaries, it's less about changing others and more about standing in your power. When you set a boundary, be prepared to follow through with whatever boundary you've set. View your boundaries as an organic filter system to remove from your life what is not in your highest good. You should never be seeking to change people. It should always be you. Self-care is a phenomenal practice in holding space for you to love and nourish you. Lean into things that bring you joy, things that feed your mind, body, and soul. Make time for things you enjoy and permit yourself to invest in those. Find some alone time, read a book, have a cup of coffee, all by yourself, soak in a tub, dance it out, take a nature walk, make some art. These are just some examples. If you feel guilty allowing yourself these things, recognize that that is something that needs healing. It's an old belief system that no longer serves you, and it is time to decondition that. Now, those are all just a few things you can add to your daily routine that are truly showing up and holding space for yourself in a proactive way. By incorporating them, you're showing up for yourself with intention, supporting your own healing, and fostering the growth you deserve. Finally, let's dig a little bit deeper on how holding space helps to deepen your own spiritual growth. The biggest and most obvious is teaching us to move without judgment. This is so important, y'all. It's so important. Judgment is rooted in the lower energetic vibrations. There can be no unconditional love without judgment. And love with conditions is not love, it's convenience. It is so important to practice observing without judgment. Holding space fosters understanding, which in turn fosters forgiveness. It helps us expand our awareness and perspective, moving beyond our own view to deepen our capacity for connection, unity, and once again, unconditional love. Imagine the self-love and self-worth that develop organically when you cultivate understanding, compassion, forgiveness, and unconditional love. This process nurtures your capacity for deep reflection, self-actualization, and the permission to be authentic, not just for others, but for yourself. Okay, guys, that's going to be it for this week. I hope you found this episode helpful. Come visit me at RickyRae.com. We'll see you next week. Thanks for hanging out and tuning in with me.